McDaniels, the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, has a very different quarterback issue. This has nothing to do with health. This has everything to do with preserving health of the quarterback so that the team will have maximum options at its disposal in the offseason when it comes to what to do with the quarterback. Derek Carr benched for the last 2 games of the season. Here's Josh McDaniels talking to reporters about that development yesterday.
Had a good conversation with the quarterbacks this morning, and so we're going to go ahead and start Jarrett the last couple games of the season here. None of us is happy with where we're at, but we think it's an opportunity to evaluate a younger player who hasn't had much time to play. Talking to Derek, who was great. He understands the scenario that we're in and the situation, and very supportive of the 2 young guys. Those 3 guys obviously have worked together hand in hand all year, and he'll do anything he can to help them. So, that's what we're going to do. Derek's played a lot of football. There's a lot of evaluating that's going to take place here once the season's over in terms of how we make the most progress, what makes the most sense for everybody, and how we move forward. And we knew that was going to be the case. Obviously, we were hoping to be in a different scenario than we are currently. But there's no finality to today. This is just a decision we thought, after talking about it and contemplating it, that we thought would be an opportunity for us to see what we have in him and how we do going forward. We'll see.
The first part of that clip, and maybe you need to see it to fully appreciate it, he was so physically uncomfortable.
He was nervous, right?
It made me physically uncomfortable.
Big breaths.
I could feel it in my stomach as I was watching him, and the eyes darting around and the head moving. Look, here's what's going on here. Now, in any other set of circumstances, I'd say, the Raiders are tanking. They're trying to improve their draft position, because that's what I say teams will do. They don't say we're trying to lose. We just want to evaluate the lesser players on the depth chart.
Right.
We want to see what they can do, which we know what they can do or can't do, because that's why they're backup.
Exactly.
This is about $40.4 million. That's what this is about. Remember when Derek Carr did his contract? We talked about this earlier in the week, and I said the moment they bench Derek Carr is the moment that they are activating this strategy. Big contract, $40 million a year quarterback. All the information robots out there praising Derek Carr for this great deal, and his agent, of course, because that's how they get their information. The truth was he got $27 million for this year with no guarantees beyond this year. Injury guarantees, not full guarantees. $40.4 million injury guarantee that becomes a full guarantee just days after the Super Bowl. They've got a limited window to cut him before that $40.4 million becomes fully guaranteed. So now, Chris, here's the problem that the Raiders have.
Yeah.
And this one is fascinating to me.
Yes, it is.
Because everybody's now saying they're going to trade him, they're going to trade him, they're going to trade him. Well, good luck trading him when you have to hold him beyond the point at which the guarantees vest. Because if they do an Alex Smith deal where unofficially they have a trade in place to move Derek Carr when? First day of the league year in March. Until then, completely unenforceable. Either team can walk away with no consequence whatsoever, just like Josh McDaniels did to the Colts. That's what makes it even more fascinating. They strike a deal with a team, maybe the Colts, to trade Derek Carr. Yeah. That's how crazy this is. And they take the leap of faith that the Colts are going to go through with it. And if they don't, they are F-K-E-D. They're stuck with Derek Carr and his $40.4 million. So I tell you what, if I'm Mark Davis, I don't want to spend 6 weeks of my life worrying that someone is going to pull a Josh McDaniels on Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
I'm just cutting the guy.
Yeah.
Forget about it. Right. I don't care what I could get for him. I'm done. I don't have the $40.4 million to put at risk with a guy that I am done with. I think they're going to cut him. I don't know how they could otherwise pull it off so Mark Davis's hair doesn't fall out of his head between the day that money vests and the day the deal for the trade is officially done. I wouldn't do it. if I were him, and I can't imagine he's going to do it either.
I would agree, Mike. And I would think with them making this move that they're willing to do that if they got to. I would think that this is not a dumb group out there. Again, I know we're still evaluating Josh McDaniels, the head coach, and all of that. He hasn't necessarily passed with flying colors, but I mean, he has been in the best organization in football over the last 20 years. They're smart, they're tactical. I would think this has been thought out in discussions with Mark Davis and Dave Ziegler, the GM, and everybody, to where they've just worked out the different scenarios. I think by making this move, Mike, I think you're exactly right. I think they're telling us they're willing to cut him. It's over. It's over. He will not be the Raiders quarterback. There's no way. And they're not going to eat the $40 million. So that's like, and quite honestly, I don't know if anybody's going to trade for Derek Carr and just want to give him $40 million anyways. So there's a few things there that we can unpack at a different time. But still, the move itself is still shocking. It is. I think it says a lot. This group up there, as far as, I played for Josh McDaniels. I worked in New England for a little bit. Of course, my dad is from the Parcells Belichick School of Coaching and all of that. So I do understand their thought process a little bit and how they go about their business. They're demanding of the quarterback. They expect a lot from the quarterback. And at the same time, they don't make moves like they made yesterday unless they are really unhappy. Right? That's to me the biggest thing. We've talked about it so much, how New England's always avoided quarterback controversy and those things. Because, hey, I saw it. They brought me up there the year Brady got hurt. They told me to go home because they were like, this is going to start a schism in the media. Well, when is Simms going to play? Matt Castle's never played. This is Simms, blah, blah, blah. I respected that. They've always done a great job of trying to avoid that type of thing. So this tells you that they have seen enough from Derek Carr. And I understand that. I don't know if I thought they were going to pull the trigger quite like this abruptly. And I guess, me as a ex-quarterback, hey, it's a new system, and maybe they're just going to deal with, some of the bumps and bruises along the way. But I think if we talk about this more, there's more to unpack here with Derek Carr and his play. And with this group, I can see them being very disappointed with his play and what he's done this year, especially when he's making close to $30 million. And they lost a lot of games in the last few minutes, and he didn't make plays to help them win the games, let alone last weekend where he was really bad towards the end of the game. I mean, this is wide open. It's the most wide open throw of the weekend. You can't miss that. And there's just too much of that this year, I think, that probably ultimately led him to being in the bad favor of McDaniels and the rest of the coaching staff.
When you have brought in a new coaching staff that through 1 year has come to the conclusion that this guy should not be our starting quarterback, how do you convince someone else who hasn't had the opportunity to spend a full year with him to say, bring him on?
Yeah.
We'll take him.
Right.
Maybe the Commanders, because who was the coach of the Raiders before John Gruden? Dust up Del Rio.
Yeah.
He's the defensive coordinator of the Commanders.
Right.
So he's in a position where he could work on Ron Rivera to try to convince him that Derek Carr is the guy, or at least Ron Rivera has somebody who can go to and get reliable information about Derek Carr. But even then, here's the reality. To trade Derek Carr, you do need a certain element of cooperation from him. I mean, ideally what you would do is say, hey, Derek, can you just delay your $40.4 million guarantee vesting date until the 5th day of the league year, not the 3rd day after the waiver period starts? But why would he agree? Why would he say yes to anything at this point? He's going to be pissed. He's feeling like he was rejected. Remember how many times he said he's going to be the quarterback of the Raiders for all of his career?
Sure.
And I made the observation that he has no clue of how football really works, that it's not up to the player, it's up to the team, and then he blocked me on Twitter. I mean, he's a sensitive guy, and he's going to be pissed at the Raiders. And I would, if I were him, if I were advising him or if I were making the decision, my position would be, I got a contract that pays me $40.4 million, fully guaranteed as of the 3rd day after the Super Bowl. You either cut me or pay me. It's your decision. I have my rights, and I'm not surrendering any of them. And he also has a no-trade clause.
Yeah.
Every franchise quarterback or would-be franchise quarterback has a no-trade clause because all he has to say is, I don't want to play for your team, and no one's going to trade for him. That team's not going to trade for him if he doesn't want to be there. But they're going to need cooperation from him to thread this needle. They need him to say, yeah, I'll take a trade here. I'll take a trade there. If he just decides he's done, it's over, and he's left the team. Now, the reports were yesterday he did so with the team's permission because he doesn't want to be a distraction. I don't know how much of a distraction he would be. How much of a distraction is Matt Ryan? They're doing the same thing to him.
Yeah.
They're putting him in bubble wrap again to avoid injury guarantees becoming full guarantees because he can't pass a physical. If he can't pass a physical by the time those guarantees flip, why are you leaving? I think he's pissed off. I think he grabbed his ball and he went home, and that's fine. That's fine. But good luck getting him to cooperate with you if you're going to try to trade him. I'm telling you, Chris, and it's funny to see the people in the media who are always trying to play the quid pro quo game with their sources, and they're trying to boost different things and push different agendas. It's bullshit. They're not going to be able to pull off this trade.
No.
They're not going to be able to do it. And if I'm Mark Davis, I am cutting the guy as soon as the waiver period opens, and I'm not taking any chances of owing him $40.4 million because I've decided I'm done with him.
Yeah, I think that if it comes to that, they will. Now, listen, the only thing I'll say is maybe Derek Carr, his agent, they start to gauge the temperature out there, and they realize, wait, nobody's going to give us $40 million on the open market, so maybe we will extend that period of when it's due. So we can get that check, and then we'll figure out maybe to add another year on the contract with the new team to lessen the blow or whatever there. I could see maybe that happening, once they gauge like, oh, wait, our options are limited, and, okay, nobody's going to give us $40 million a year on the free market right now. Maybe, right? But I think you're explaining a lot of things here. And, Mike, you said some
You're
other –
still better off being cut.
You're still better off.
You're still better off being cut because you're going to a team that didn't have to give Mark Davis anything to get your contract.
That's right.
I think that's going to be a factor for Derek Carr.
I hear you there, too.
I don't want them to get anything from me.
Right. I hear you there. It's gotten personal, and I understand that. He's gone through a lot with this Raiders organization. Unfortunately, he's with a coach and a staff that's been with the ultimate mofo, general, captain. They know what they want their quarterback to look like to take them to a Super Bowl and Tom Brady. And I think they've made the assessment that this guy ain't Tom Brady and he's not our, cut of cloth here. This is not what we like at quarterback. That's what they're telling you.
If only Tom Brady were available next year, they could have Tom Brady.
Yeah,
if only he were a free agent after this season.
This is a coach where I was on a team in Denver and I think he was in the process of evaluating Jay Cutler, who had a ton of talent, and was like, whoa, I don't like some of this. I'm going to get him out of here. It's not for me. I mean, he's not afraid to make these type of bold moves to frame his offense and the team the way he wants. And then I think when you add on, mistakes, not being clutch in the end of the game.
So should he go get Brady? I mean, look, hey, it's either Brady or Tim Tebow. At this point, two of Josh McDaniels' favorites.
Well, listen,
so which one's it going to be?
I don't know. I don't know.
Which one don't you want?
Brady, it's certainly worth thinking about. I mean, it's certainly. I can't imagine McDaniel wanting to go there just because at some point he's going to want. Wait, like Brady might retire after next year, and now I'm in the same boat. That would be the only thing I would say there. And I don't know if the team is good enough to where Brady would want to go there yet. But I think, hey, listen, even to that point there, Mike, the play with Derek Carr, what we saw at the end of the game last week, or the interceptions, they were all bad. None of them should have happened. There was open receivers, a little bit trigger shy at sometimes. And like, hey, throw the ball, like pull the trigger here. He's open. Throw a rifle. Don't try to, just drop it in there perfectly. That's not what Tom Brady did. So they don't like that. Then they're paying him a lot of money. They expect you to make big plays. I think when you add in all of that, you look at the Rams game, people were open in the second half. He should have put the game away and threw an interception in the end zone. Devonte Adams was wide open for a touchdown. You add that to last week, the Jacksonville game that was underwhelming. So I think there's just too many things there that they finally came to a head where they were just like, he's not our type of guy. And I think that ultimately led.
So who is?
I don't know. That's we're gonna have to see.
Remember. Let me throw this out there. It wasn't all that long ago that UFC President Dana White told the story during the Gronk cast for one of the UFC fight nights that Dana White had brokered a deal for Tom Brady to go to the Raiders, and Mark Davis was into it. And everybody was on board with it until John Gruden put the kibosh on it. That would have been 2020. And remember the whole who's the MFer that Tom Brady was talking about on LeBron James' show, The Shop. Right. I mean, it all fits together, especially now that Josh McDaniels is there. He's not doing this if they don't have an idea who their quarterback is going to be next year. Tom Brady is one. Jimmy Garoppolo is another.
Sure.
Right? How can we overlook the possibility of Jimmy Garoppolo
Definitely
going to the Raiders? Baker Mayfield.
Definitely.
Look, Josh McDaniels had a secret workout with Baker Mayfield before the 2018 draft, and he had the best seat in the house to see what Mayfield did to the Raiders on that epic Thursday night from a few weeks ago. I put Baker Mayfield in that mix, too. So there's 3 possibilities right there.
I'm with you, Mike. I agreed. Let alone the draft, could have some options there, too. But I think those are very, very real possibilities. And, hey, if I'm one of those guys, it's not a bad spot. I think this also plays into the Derek Carr thing. As we're getting ready for the show last night and I'm looking through things, it's just like, I could picture the Raiders, too, going, wait. I mean, you're not playing good. You haven't been clutch. We're paying you $30 million a year, and we protect really well. You haven't been sacked many times, and we have the number 1 running back in football. We got a good rushing attack. Like, there's no excuses for the offense not to be better. And I think that's where the frustrations came to a head. And the names you threw out there, I think, are very, very real candidates to be a part of the Raiders conversation.
One more name to keep in mind,
yeah.
Devonte Adams,
yeah,
who specifically wanted to be traded to the Raiders so he could play with Derek Carr, who was a teammate of Adams at Fresno State. After 8 years with the Packers, Adams wanted to reunite with Derek Carr. This man gave everything he had. The reason I'm a Raider, one of the most disciplined and loving people I know, got my brother's back through whatever, and if you can't respect it, excuse my language, bleep you. Sorry, Mom. Bleep you. So they got a problem now with Devonte Adams, and surely they knew that when they activated this anti-Derek Carr plan, and they're going to have to try to smooth things over with Devonte Adams. They may have to trade him. Maybe the only way to trade Derek Carr is to work out a package deal where it's Devonte Adams and Derek Carr together. Maybe that's the only way to get Derek Carr to cooperate with this move, is to trade Carr. I'm not joking around. That may be the only way to pull it off, is to take Carr and Adams and drop them onto another team together.
Hey, Adams wanted to be there because of Carr. We know that, but that wasn't the only reason. He spoke a lot about his grandmother had never seen a game in person. He's a West Coast guy. He wants to be there. They paid him a lot of money. He's with a coach that is going to know how to get him the ball.
Grandma may not be too happy with what she's seen this year.
Also
Grandma may want to go back to not seeing the games.
Grandma might have heard, grandson come in the house a few times and go, damn, I was open a lot today, and I don't know, but number 4 didn't throw me the ball. So she could have heard that too and understand it. So that's the other aspect we got to take into account here. I think that's so we'll see where this goes, but again, I think you're right. I think ultimately it's going to end up being cut. I think Devonte Adams will be there. And I think, one of those names you brought up right there, I think are definitely going to be in contention to be the quarterback of that football team.
There was a fourth one I was thinking about too, and I'm going to have to go back and somebody with a connection to McDaniels beyond Brady, Garoppolo, and Mayfield. I had 4 in mind. It'll come to me at some point, hopefully. Maybe not. Who knows? Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.